Hi, welcome to Tuesdays with Terra. I'm Terra Bundance, and today I'm going to talk about codependency and extremes. So, I had a bit of an aha this week, and of course, it's going to come up because of all the conversations I've been having lately, specifically about codependency. So, the aha that I had this week is around extremes and how that shows up in codependent relationships or just in people who are prone to codependency. The whole idea of codependency is that need or desire for someone else's okay or someone else's acceptance. And I talked about that a lot in the last video, in the last two videos. So what we're talking about today is the extremes. So one of the biggest awarenesses that I had recently is around the extreme of expectations. So if I have an expectation of how people are going to accept me or how people are going to connect with me. So the way that showed up this week is around these extremes. And one of the things that I noticed about relationships is that because I'm an empath and because I'm highly sensitive, I may notice that there's a disconnect between myself and another person. And the way that I used to take that was that person doesn't like me. For some reason, that person doesn't like me. So I would make this effort towards helping them like me. I would try to show up more, or I would try to do things for them, or I would try to kind of change or alter the way that my energy would be around that particular person. And this week, my aha was that more than likely it's that that person doesn't need anything from me. They're not getting anything out of the relationship or the connection or the friendship or whatever it is that I'm hoping or thinking that it should be. So the way it showed up was this week I started asking people for their feedback around how I show up in their lives. And what I was doing was looking for ways to sort of shift and change a little bit about my website. So when I'm asking for people for their thoughts or ideas, what I'm trying to do is find the common lines, the common theme. That's a point that I want to focus on. So that's not as important as my aha that came out of it, because a couple of the people that I reached out to gave me very surface answers. And what I recognized this week was that person, I'm not on their radar. I'm just simply not on that person's radar. And that's not something to take personally. That's to recognize that I'm not going to be on everybody's radar. And that's not something that I need to try and do. It's not my job to be on everyone's radar because I'm only going to show up in people's lives the same way that other people are going to show up in my life when we need them. And so for us to look at our lives in a different way, to shift the energy, the desires, the expectations around what we think we need to do to show up in other people's lives. We're just here to be here, we're here to be ourselves. And if I'm not showing up in someone's field or I'm not showing up in someone's energy as someone that they need or desire in that moment, then I'm not meant for that person in that moment. And so I'm not just saying this about myself, I'm saying this for all of us. Where do you think in your life recently that you've been showing up in a way to try and make a connection to somebody who isn't needing our energy? And so, really deeply take some time, take a moment to really go into yourself, take some deep breaths, close your eyes, and really get clear. Where am I trying too hard? Where am I trying too hard in my life? It might be with an individual, it might be with a job, it might be with a partnership, it might be with a group, it might be with children, your own children. It might be it could show up in lots of different ways. Where am I trying harder than the other person to make this connection? Because obviously the energy is moving too much in one direction, and that might feel overwhelming to someone who's not ready for our energy, or our energy at that particular level or at this particular time. And that's hard for us codependent, empath, highly sensitive people to really take in sometimes, because it's like, no, everybody needs me. Don't you want me? Don't you like me? Don't you need me? And the truth is, no, not everybody, not all the time. And if that were the case, it would be too much for us anyway. We wouldn't have the energy or the space or the capacity to be able to handle that much coming into our lives as people needing us, So we're really only supposed to be available for the people who are available for us or who need us in this moment. And, that's a relief. That's like, weight lifted. So as you look into this week, work on that. Really check in with yourself. What is it that I'm doing too much of? Where am I putting myself too much into a situation that isn't necessary in this moment? So another thing that came to me this week was the idea of capacity. So when I'm in someone's life or they're in my life and I'm showing up a certain way or I'm sharing information and that person just seems to glaze over. Again, this isn't about me. This is about their capacity. What is their capacity to take in whatever I might be sharing with them or how I might be connecting with them? And the same goes for me. There's a certain level of energy that I can take in, and then I hit my capacity and I can't take in anymore. So I might need to let somebody know, you know what, I have hit saturation point, or I've hit my capacity to be able to take in any more information. And I want to continue this conversation, but I just can't do it right now. Let's just bring this energy back together another time because I want to be able to support you. I want to be present with you. And I can't, I just don't have it to give right now. So setting that boundary by recognizing the saturation point, recognizing the capacity, and also realizing the same thing with other people. When I see someone glaze over, they've reached their saturation point. They've reached their capacity to take in whatever it is that I might be sharing with them. Now, part of that showed up with my son recently. And so he's 7 years old. And normally he spends time with my parents 1 day a week overnight. And that hadn't happened for about 3 weeks. And I didn't realize it until I realized that I'd hit my saturation point with our connection. And I was feeling like a bad parent when in fact the truth is I just had hit my saturation point and I needed some of my space and time alone. And so he went to my parents last week, his normal time, and I got so much out of those 24 hours. And I'm sure he did too, because we only have so much energy to be able to connect with each other in with any relationship. And so for me to be able to recognize that with my son basically gave us some space to feel more connected to each other once we came together, to appreciate each other more, to really be able to, bond, connect. So this week, it's all about recognizing extremes, recognizing when someone's energy doesn't connect with ours. That doesn't mean they don't like us. It just might mean that our energies aren't meant to connect in that moment. And also the energy of capacity, saturation, recognizing when I've given too much or I've received too much energy from someone or with someone. And there comes that point where it's like, okay, taken in as much as I can right now. Also to other people, this person has taken in as much as they can of my energy in this moment. And really getting clear that that's nothing personal, and even if it is, it's okay because it's not about us, it's about the other person. If that person can't take us in anymore and they don't want to anymore and they don't want to spend any more time with us, that's about them. That's nothing for me to take personally. It's like, okay, that's a real experience, that's a real moment. And it's very important for us to give ourselves permission to be okay with that, to be okay with when it shows up for ourselves, and to be okay with when it shows up for others around us. And realize that, in this moment, it's not meant for these two people to connect. And that's beautiful. What a gift that I get to give myself and them for space and freedom and allowing for whatever it is that wants to come into my energy next. Whatever it is that wants to go into their energy next. You know, we don't have control over the way anyone takes us, and we don't have control over the way that we take others. We only have control over ourselves and how we feel in any given moment. And what we are feeling in the moment is important and necessary. It just might not be with that particular person. So find healthy ways to recognize when you've reached capacity this week, when you've reached your saturation point, and also find opportunities to recognize when someone else might have reached theirs with us. And if you're feeling uncomfortable or disconnected or like they've pulled away, just recognize that maybe they've hit their saturation point, you know? And also with our extremes, the way we expect people to show up in our lives or the way we think people it might expect us to show up in their lives may just not work out, may not be what's necessary or important to move forward in our lives. That's something as codependents, we are giving ourselves the gift of broadening our perspectives, broadening the way we look at the world, taking it to the next level so that we're not showing up as codependent, and then we're not showing up as too needy, and then we're not showing up as wanting to fix or change or give too much to other people. We're basically just showing up the way we're meant to show up. So that is my challenge for you this week. Find where you're meant to show up and then feel into when that energy might shift and change, and find the next place to show up that's calling to you, that needs you, that wants you, that's important for you to step into. Let's really take this awareness to the next level. And I look forward to hearing more about how this works out for you this week. Have a blessed and beautiful week. I'll see you next week on Tuesdays with Terra.